Yeah, Jordan's in the house.
So how have you been so far?
I'm all
Great.
right.
So, um,
Stitches out.
what's out?
I got my stitches out. The rods are gonna be in there for at least another month, and then we'll evaluate it after that.
Okay. All right. So then you're going to evaluate it after that. Okay. So that's good there. So the stitch is out. So is nothing on the surface or is that still exposed?
Yeah, no, that's still exposed.
Okay.
So the two exposed rods are still there.
Okay. So those are going to still be there. Okay.
Yeah, for now. Yeah.
All right. So let's see here. I wanted to start with, okay. I
As
want
a
to share my
matter of,
screen.
let's see here. I'll show you a better picture now that this was the picture right before they took the stitches out.
Okay, hold on. Let me
I'll
stop
text you that.
let me stop my share. Oh, you're
No
texting it
worries.
to me. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And you actually get a better
Okay, so
idea
I
of the
see this.
rod.
Oh, oh, I didn't see all the stitches before.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I got all the stitches removed.
Okay. All right. So those are gone. The stitches are gone.
Yeah,
Wow. How,
stitches are gone.
how long was how long were the stitches in for?
The stitches were there from the surgery, so from the 31st. Yeah.
Okay. So I have another question. So, okay, because you had this accident that went concentrating on your arm and the surgery and everything else, did you have your VA appointment? No.
No.
What the? I just thought about it. I said, wait a minute, hold on. I said, wait a minute.
My
Where's
VA
that?
appointment was so I had to reschedule my VA appointment, obviously,
Okay,
uh, because I was recovering from surgery.
right.
Um, so
So
I
you haven't had
rescheduled
your
that.
PSA yet.
No, I have not.
Okay.
I won't get that done now until next month. So
What, did you already reschedule?
yeah. Oh, of course
Oh,
I already rescheduled my view.
okay.
Oh, of
All right.
course.
Okay. All right. So then probably one of the things we'll also do then,
It was actually time. It was almost time for my annual anyway. So what I did was I was like, hey, can we just get me scheduled for my annual because it's almost that time anyway.
right.
And
Okay.
so that's what I did. So freaking I just
Okay.
rescheduled it. And so it's gonna be my annual.
Okay. All right then. All right then. Fine. Okay. So, I wanted to let me go here and share. Oh, what does I want to look at? I want to look at topics and then we'll decide which way we want to go. So some of these we've already done. This is what I came up originally when I set up and I
Right.
was working with AI. And I think I sent you, did I send you that list?
I
Yeah.
think we went over it before. I don't
Yeah.
remember if you sent it to me now,
So some of
but
the,
I
I
think
mean,
we
the,
were
the
going over
PSA
that.
text, we've already discussed that.
Right.
The Marine and the soldier talk about health. We've been doing that.
Right.
Black fathers must lead the health. We virtually kind of hit up on that. There's a reason, especially the thing about prostate. Math confident sons, we didn't do that.
We haven't done that yet.
No. Fixed to free, dismantling poverty thinking. We're part on that. Okay, buy versus lease. I guess the one thing I was up here thinking about, well, I wanted to kind of go through these and have you kind of pick out one. But the other thing, when we started, you said, okay, let me kind of review those. I know I got the camera on, so might as well.
No,
So
that's fine.
buy versus lease. I want to talk about that. The truth about price versus cost. Teaching black sons to be their own boss. We're kind of hitting on parts of that. The boss boot camp is something I've already created this week. 3 ways to turn social media into a paycheck. Why network marketing is the black wealth strategy. What is consumer direct marketing? Let's talk men's health, mental
We
health
touched on
and
that.
PTSD. We touched on that. Your gut and your brain, fixing mood through food. No, we haven't did that yet. Why black families need multiple streams of income. A little bit. We're going to get more up into it. Side hustles versus passive income. Self-publishing. the audiobook advantage, music production. Now, these are things and stuff that I have done, and that can be improved on, and it's just things I've done that I can share. Like, um, one of the things about writing a book is that when you write a book, then you're positioning yourself as a person, um, of authority, okay? And there's a bond and trust connected with that. I mean, if we look around, everyone, as far as politicians or actors, actresses, and everything else, anybody else, they have a book. When I was working, doing my first presentations as a teacher at teacher conferences, the first time I started doing teacher conferences, see, the conferences come up, and a lot of times it
Hmm.
was always good. It was a way not to be burnt out. And it was a way to get together with other teachers to find out what they're doing and networking. And that's how you really grow. A lot of times uh, we get just trying to do it on our own, and you do need other people. Uh, it's just like we said, more minds and stuff involved into it. But when I first started doing that, they would have the conference, and I would attend, and other people were speaking. I'd be in the audience. I'm listening. I said, "Well, shoot, I can do that." But the only difference between me and them is that they put in a proposal. And so I started putting proposals, and I started doing that, and they got turned down. I mean, I submitted hundreds, and they were all getting turned down. Uh, then I decided to go, and I said, well, why are mine getting turned down? I mean, what is it? What is the criteria? The criteria. Then I remembered that when I became a teacher and I wanted to take one of the teachers' tests, the first time I went in and took the test, I failed it. And I ain't never failed the test. But I went into this cold turkey, and this was more than just a math test. There were just math problems, that was no problem. But it was other things they wanted to talk about teaching that I wasn't really prepared to answer that question. So I failed it because I wasn't prepared. So then I started going in and looking more into it and starting to find out what the structure of the exams, because if you have a test, every test tells you what the standards are or the information that's going to be covered, the domains. So I realized that and learned that. So I started finding out what the domains were. And then I looked at the domains and then I said, I'm not the only one that struggled with this test. So then I started searching to look and see if there were other study courses out there by someone else who had failed the test. Because when I went to take that teacher's test the first time, there had been people there that had failed it 7, 8, 9, 10 times. And I was upset that I failed
About
it
failing it once.
once. And they had people that been multiple times. And so that's why I said, stop, time out. I got to start looking. So after I found that and then found one of the study courses, then I started using the study course. And it also taught me a strategy of what I needed to focus on my time. And it really makes a difference on understanding the structure of the exam, not only the content, but the structure. So if the structure has a time, in other words, how much time do I have and what parts? So the test had multiple choice,
Hmm.
but then it also had like four essay problems. Okay, short, not, yeah, essay. They give you a topic and you got to talk about it.
Right.
And the first thing, I'm just talking about it when I did it because I was unprepared. But what I really needed to do was to write it as if I was actually teaching that problem to a student. And
Got you.
that's a total difference.
Oh,
Okay.
huge difference.
Huge difference. And so, but I got that information because of that study course. Okay.
Okay.
Then when I needed to go take, because in teaching high school math, you have algebra, you got geometry,
Mhm.
and then you got calculus or trig. So those are the primary courses. You got algebra one, geometry, algebra two, uh, pre-calculus or trig, and calculus. Those are the subjects. And the tests are separated into three tests. One test is on algebra, which means it does all the algebra, algebra one and
Mhm.
algebra two combined. Then you have one test on geometry, and then you have the other one on trig and calc. So those are the three tests. So I had to take three tests. So after going through what I did that first time, I passed all the other tests because I set up a strategy. I develop a strategy on
Right.
how to do it. Okay. That was a learning lesson because I realized that if you want to succeed in anything, you really do need to come up with a strategy of doing it. And so that was a valuable lesson that I started on here. Um, so the same thing on self-publishing books. First, I did my book. You encouraged me about writing a book. I did that, but then the other thing is, so now what do you do when you write the book? Okay.
Well, squirrel moment.
Hmm.
I'm sure that you're even happier now that you did write that book, just because I remember you telling me about how they took down all your stuff, I'm saying, out the museum and everything else. So imagine if you hadn't published that book and done that, future generations would have no clue about you or your accomplishments at the Naval Academy, because as far as they're concerned, you don't exist.
Right. It didn't exist. Right. You can't take, you may have taken my picture out of the Naval Museum. Okay. But you can't negate the fact of what I actually did.
Exactly.
Okay. And in the book, I actually wrote about what I did and also my mindset about going through it. And I also kind of, in that case, kind of connected it to math because in the last couple of chapters in there, I put in there about how to pass a math class. And what I put in there was the strategy that was in
Mhm.
there. And in writing that book, um, the valuable lessons on it was one, it took me time. It took me about a year and a half to write that book. And because I was doing it all myself and
Right.
editing um, in the book and everything. It's the funny thing about editing. When you're editing the book, um, I would go ahead and edit and edit and edit and edit. And then
Mhm.
it found out that every time I would go to it, I'm finding something else that I want to rewrite and stuff. But I kept on going. I said, God, if I keep on doing this, I'm never going to publish this damn book. And then I realized how many books have I picked up to read
Mhm.
that I'm reading it that I find something wrong. They didn't put the comma here or even misspelled the word. Virtually every book I've ever read in my life has
Yeah.
something that was wrong.
Yeah. They're not perfect at
Nothing,
all.
nothing's perfect.
There's even some that's been bestsellers that actually have true grammatical errors in them.
Yeah.
So,
And then
uh,
I had, when I had just about ready to publish the book, uh, there were some things in there, some critical incidents, but I didn't include it. That was concerning with my mom and her death. I didn't put those in there. But I had the book, and I was on a field trip to the district had sent me on a leadership trip to Gettysburg. That we went and we were actually walking through Gettysburg and actually studying the different leaders and their decision making and their type of leadership. And that
mhm.
was going on. So I was actually in God, I think it's Carville, Pennsylvania. So I actually walked the grounds of the Gettysburg, the Battle of Gettysburg.
Okay.
And while I was there, then I sent a copy of it to Kenny was asking me a question because I told him I was there, and then I sent it to him, and then he's going all off about the book about this, and you can't say this, you can't say that, and you can't do this, or you need to change that, and it was doing, and at first I said I took some of his comments to light and everything else I was doing it, and then. I finally got back home and I told my wife Joyce about the book and the edits and stuff. And then she said, whose book is it anyway? I said, it's my book. She says, well, if he don't like what's in the book, have him write his own.
There you go.
And that's so true. And I said, screw it. I mean, I did. And I said, it's right. This is my story. I'm telling it my way of what I thought and everything. You know, part of it were dreams and stuff that I had,
Mhm.
uh, but it actually captured the vast majority of everything that was going on in my life and what happened after I graduated and how I went into the Marines and all that crap and everything else I went through. And it needed to be told. And you're right. So now it's print. But then uh, I learned that experience about writing. I
Hmm.
learned that experience about editing. Then I had to learn how to uh, publish it and put it in print up into Amazon. Then I learned about copywriting, about taking a copy of my book and sending it to the copywriting office so it can be copyrighted. And there it's on file, so it's official
Right.
on there. And then it came to the point, I said, all right, so now what? Now I got the book, now what? So, well, obviously people got books that they selling them, So then I had to look at about how do you sell, okay? And then realizing the different markets. So on that book, I would put it up on Amazon and I didn't really market it. I started learning how to do their ads and everything else.
Hmm.
But then after a while doing it, then I realized, oh, this is a game. See, this is how this game works. So you get a book and you self-publish it, and we put it, Amazon makes it easy for you to do it. And
Yeah.
you are able to do that. And so I won't regret that from having the book published and stuff like that. I've gotten more sales on the audio book than I have on the paperback book.
Yeah.
And I really did not put it up there just to say, hey, I published a book and to print the copy out. And when I would go on conferences or whatever, then I had the book, the copy of the book there. And it's the point of accomplishment. It's on my shelves.
Right.
How many people do I know that I've read other books? How many people actually have a book? You know? So I did that. And then learning that experience and then started looking at the marketing. But the problem was is that when people would buy my book, I have no idea who bought my book. And the other thing about if you're going to make money on doing a book like publishing is the fact that people buy your book one time.
Hmm.
They're not going to go out and buy. Well, sometimes they really love the book. They may want to they may buy a paperback and then so they want to go get the hard copy.
Right.
Um, Today's changing, and so a lot of people we're like all my students had earplugs in,
Hmm.
so they do audio. So I started doing audio. So that was my first course that I purchased was a course on doing audio books. It's called the Audio Book Income Academy, and where these guys teach you how to how to start out from the very concept of a book
Hmm.
to structuring the book to editing the book to getting your cover design and everything, including putting it on Amazon and audio and ACX for your audio book. And it also goes into the marketing. But I really didn't follow. I still have access to that course,
Hmm.
so I can share that with you if you wanted to go through that because it kind of
Oh,
goes
heck
through the
yeah.
steps. Yeah. And I've already paid the $2,000 for it.
Heck yeah. Heck, I would love to
And
participate
so
with that.
that will, yeah, so you can use that
Maybe
course to
I'll
go through.
maybe I have to pull out my old transcripts from the book that I did start writing.
Yeah. So it'd be something that you can use on there. And then plus, I've already gone through that. So I know how to get the books and everything else, all the artwork, design. And then eventually I saw this inside the course. I saw this thing.
Shoot, dag nabbit, I daggone tell my story. They might actually pick it up and put it on Netflix.
You
From my
don't
freaking
know.
childhood. Hey, because see, you gotta remember, I did survive growing up in Kinlock. I
That's
did make
right.
it
That's
out.
right.
Um,
So, so now
yeah.
this thing here about that course, give you access to that course so that you can go ahead and start to prepare. It'll help you get the foundations and everything else on it. But eventually, so that was the first book. So the first book was the Annapolis Creed book.
Hmm.
Okay. Then what I did, the next book I wrote was another thing that I like to do was cooking. Okay, so anytime I was having because that's when John and Jared, they were all
Yeah.
coming down about once or twice a month. And also, you know, how George was with the Christmas and the holidays, you know, for Thanksgiving and stuff. Uh, I started writing down the recipes, like my gumbo, my ooey gooey. I don't think you ever had that. You haven't had my ooey gooey.
I don't know if I've had
No,
yours.
no, because when
I
you came
I got my
down,
own. I got my own recipe as well for ooey gooey. So,
oh, okay. So I love that around. I normally make that around Christmas time. So for ooey gooey, my gumbo, I used
Mhm,
to do the crawfish boils and seafood boiled and everything. So what I did was started taking those recipes, and what I used to do was cook, and then I would take pictures, and I was posting them on a blog that
mhm,
was Annapolis Creed blog. So when I got the book, I started doing the blog by writing little articles about different chapters in the book as I was writing it, and I started doing that. And but the things about the food I would do, I would take those pictures and I put them on Facebook, and then I would get my old academy guys would refer on it and said, they used to say, JB, you make the best food porn in the world. they, they used to say, because it looked good. Okay.
right.
So then I did that and I said, okay, so I'm going to make a cookbook. So I started doing a cookbook, and this was right around the pandemic time. Okay. So I did the cook. I was doing that cookbook, and I did the cookbook, the enduring classic recipes, and I started experimenting with that to get that book out the way. Then the next book I did, let's see, enduring classics. Then I think the next one was my book about dating. That's what it was because Joyce had died,
Mhm.
and the pandemic was on. I was closed in, and I'm 65 years old, and I'm thinking I'm too old to be going into this nightclub party and bar hookups and all this junk. I said
Right.
I ain't got time for that crap. I said, and then I had just did a wedding. My school secretary had a wedding, and they hired me as the DJ. And you know how weddings are. Weddings
Yeah.
are people on the prowl. So I go there to be the DJ. In the end, when I came back, I said, "No, I don't want this." Matter of fact, there was a young lady that one of my coworkers had introduced me to, and
Mhm.
everything looked good on the surface. But afterwards, in the first conversation with her, I found out that she didn't have a place to live. She
Nope.
didn't have a job. She was actually staying with my coworker. Um, she actually, and then she had a teenage daughter. And I'm saying, whoa, no, I'm 65 years old. I said, I do not want to be dealing with a teenage daughter. I'm a high school teacher. So the
It's like I
last
already
thing I
got to
need
deal with kids already.
I ain't
I
gonna
ain't
be
trying to
here.
have one at the
Yeah,
crib too.
already got mine out of my nest. The last thing I want to do is be involved in having a teenage girl. Okay.
Wow.
Oh my God. So I remember there was one time when there was another lady, and she wound up having a teenage girl. And that was when John was with me, and I took him for his birthday. We went to Magic Mountain, all of us together. It was just two families who went together.
Yeah.
And that was an experience, but it gave me, I said, no, I don't want to do that. No, I can't do that. So, but then I was still scared about going up and out. Like I started looking at the dating apps
Hmm.
and looking at that, and I said, oh no, this just ain't. And the other thing I said, well, I ain't going to church to find nobody because I said, because I'm a sinner.
I was gonna say it. It's not like the ones that's in the church nowadays ain't sending their daggone selves the night before church any
Yeah,
daggone.
yeah, I know. They're all hypocrites. I'm sorry. I'm
Yeah,
past that thing about being a hypocrite anymore. I'm not gonna
yeah,
do that
God,
crap,
freaking used to
you know.
because
And
shoot,
then,
even in the military, we was guilty of that, especially in the military.
oh,
Going clubbing freaking the night before and then going to church on freaking Sunday.
and then going
Like
to
it wasn't
church on
nobody
Sunday.
business. Knowing
Yeah.
knowing daggone well you just seen the pastor with somebody that wasn't his wife the night before off in
Yeah.
VIP.
Well, it's just like at Annapolis, that they made it mandatory that on Sundays that you had to have some type of mental, I say, mental capacity. So you either had to go to church in the chapel
Hmm.
on campus, or you can go off campus to a church out in town. And we chose that because we wanted to get out of the base, you
Yeah.
know. I started that in my plebe year, my freshman year, found out that I can go off campus if I was going to church. And plus they was giving us home cooked meals. They were
Yeah,
cooking on
man.
Sundays. And so we were eating some good stuff, you know. All the stuff I can't eat now that I don't eat, but anyway, it was damn good, you know. That good old potato salad and coleslaw and those ribs and those fried chicken and that fried catfish. Oh, hell yeah. So, but that was all good. But it was like I went to church for the extracurricular. Okay.
Oh
That's when
yeah.
we
Oh
started,
yeah. Oh yeah.
that's when I started singing, really was because we formed a choir because I wanted to help the church grow. And it was like when we first went in, everybody was like over 70 years old. There was no young folks inside the church. And we're all in our, 19, 20, we want to see some women because at Annapolis, it was all men. So
Yeah.
we wanted to see something else, make sure everything was still ticking. So, but we wound up doing the choir, getting that started. And then what happened, the young people started coming out because we were rocking. We were rocking. It was all good. It helped. That helped us stay strong and stayed in. Everybody that was in that choir stayed in and graduated. So when we had stuff that was going on that somebody was messing with us, we can get together on that Sunday. So that was all good. But I just wasn't going to go there, back
Yeah.
there. So then finally, I wound up Carolyn wind up inviting me uh, out to dinner with her girls. She has some girlfriends, other
Hmm.
ladies that was here, and they would go out to a local restaurant. And so they knew that George had died, and then the pandemic. This was right before the pandemic hit, and I was
Hmm.
kind of self-contained in, and so they invited me to get out the house, because they knew what I had went through in the
Right.
previous 2 years, but even more so of all the stuff I had to go through. Um, and so the end result is that before we got together, we decided that there were some questions that we needed to ask each other up front.
Hmm.
Because the truth is, we realized we both had relationships in the past. The truth is that you realize is that if you think you're going to change somebody, you can forget that. And a lot
Right.
of times women come in and they see the guy, oh, he's cute, or he's got some bad habits.
I can
Oh,
change him.
we'll go ahead and I will convert him and change him. You know that
Mm-mm.
attitude. And it don't work. Okay.
You
Um,
either accept me as I am with all my flaws, all my good and all my bad, and I accept you with all your flaws, all your good and all your bad, or it's just not gonna work out.
right.
Because I'm not trying to change you, so don't try to change me. If I want to change, I'll change. You know what I'm saying? I think lots of times the problem is the fact that women do mature faster than men. It just is what it is. Us as men, we are still big ass kids, big ass babies. Hell, you can even look back to some historically back to some old tribes and stuff like that where they didn't even qualify you as being a man until you were even 40 to begin with. But before they were like, all right, you're 40 now. All right, you can start having kids, you can get married, you can have a job, stuff like that. To where it's like, how can people be surprised when you can't change somebody and then relationships break up or they go south because you were trying to force somebody to be somebody they number one probably weren't ready to be yet, and number two weren't mentally had the capacity to change yet. It's just that daggone simple. Or at least that's just my opinion. But
So the end result is that we wind up making a checklist of questions, and then we got on the phone and we each asked each one of these questions. Okay. And there was no holds barred about those questions. I mean,
right, right.
it went into everything. Okay. Explicitly in details.
She was
Uh,
asking about them
and
pineapple parties. I knew it.
and the end result of that process, it changed how we went in. So we had decided when we first started out that she didn't want to get married, and we
Hmm.
weren't going to get married. And I said, "Oh, okay, I'm good with that." I've already been down that trail and everything else, and we were just going to be dating, and that's what it was going to be. Okay, but as time went on, we grew closer. So we dated for about 4 years. Yeah, time went. So we dated for 4 years. And I still lived across. So really, I guess for three
Yeah.
years, we both still lived across the street. So, but we in separate houses, except that we would get together for dinner or whatever, like a couple of nights a week and stuff like that. And so that was great. That's how it worked. But then it started looking at it. I'm up here spending all this money, and she's up here spending money here. We got two houses. It was like, what the heck are we doing? And so then we decided that to move in. And my whole thing was that I said, okay, if I'm going to sell my house and if I'm going to put money in, well, she had already mentioned up front. She says, well, if you're going to come in, you're going to move in. We're going to be together. We're living here, and you're going to put money into the house to change things. Then you need to be on the deed, and that just makes sense. I
Right.
said, whether it was putting me on the deed for just the amount that I spent, that would have been fine. I was fine with that. So, um, but anyway, so that's long story. So I sold my house. As a matter of fact, wound up being a good time to do it. So I
Right.
sold my house and I put it up. And you have a choice sometimes. There are a lot of things like Redfin or
Yeah.
which 2% and 3%. So
Which
I've
one did you
seen all
use?
those, but I'm this type of person that I've gone through my life. There's a two difference between price and cost. Price is something that we always see the first time we see something when we want to buy
Hmm.
it. Okay. And I can remember my example about price, and I think I also put in the book was about when my dad bought me a bike. I wanted a bike. And when my dad bought me a bike, he went and bought me one of these little cheap bikes that said like I was going to Kmart or whatever
Yeah.
and buying the bike and bought the bike, and that bike lasted about like 2 months. And then so we wind up going buying another bike. Okay. Uh, so the other thing is also I have uh, one thing I fell in love with about learning about cost. It was that my dad had a black cashmere coat that was in his closet that from all the time I was growing, anytime they did go somewhere where you want to dress up, my dad had this black cashmere coat. I love that thing. That coat, he had that coat for 10, 15 years. When I went into the Marine Corps and I got stationed overseas in Okinawa, they had these Japanese haberdashers, not haberdashers, I guess tailors and everything.
Yeah.
They can all you gotta do is bring them a magazine with the picture, and they go
We're
ahead
like,
and
hey, bam, I need three of them.
yeah. I used to bring the GQ magazine at the time when I was a captain. I bring the GQ magazine, and I come here and I say I want that, and he said pick the material, and we did that for those things. But um, it was just that process, and I kind of get lost up in here. So, but anyway, when we did that list, then what I wound up doing, it allowed us to cement our relationship. Our relationship started out stronger. Then when I moved in, we remodeled the house because this house was a shabby chic. Okay, it was pink everywhere, and it had everything. It was built like a woman's dollhouse.
Got you.
Okay,
Got you.
it was. I'm out. Oh, it was a sight to see. Guys would come in and they says, "I can't show my wife this house because she'll go nuts," you know. But Carolyn she has a real good eye as far as decorating. Matter of fact, when we got together, first time she came into my house, she started looking around in there, and then after about the third time over, she said, "Would you mind if I do some little redecorating? I think I'll make it look good." And I said, "Sure, okay. You know how it is when you get together. Fine.
Yeah.
I'm just working. The only thing I deal about is my office."
Right.
And then we went to Hobby Lobby, And that was $500 that first time we went to Hobby Lobby. Matter of fact, we just went to Hobby Lobby last night,
Hmm.
and we went in and came out, and it was only $24.59. I'm saying, whoa, what have we come a long way? So she wind up coming just little knick-knack things like a
Yeah.
wreath or a little clock, just little things. And we came
Little
in,
pot here, vase here.
redecorate. It looked like a new house, man. Total new house and stuff. Okay. And and then so based off that, then I said, you know what? I need to go ahead and capture these things of our experience that we did, and I put it in a book, and that was on the book, the checklist for dating. In the checklist of dating, I put all the topic areas and stuff that we asked each other about, okay, and came up with those questions and stuff to show people that if you're thinking about going and dating, you've been in relationships before you jump back into the fire again, here's a book to do
Hmm.
that with. Okay, so that's how I got that book. So after I did those three books, then I decided that uh, I wanted to do something in my profession. Because remember, I said I was, they had conferences and I kept putting in for proposals
Hmm.
and I kept getting turned down. And then I started looking at that and I said, you know what? The only especially I started eventually started doing the local ones in California and doing local training at my district. And then I did local for the state. But then I wanted to do the national ones. The National Council of Teachers of Mathematics and the National Council of Supervisors of Mathematics. I wanted those. But every time we go and I get turned down, except that the big difference between me and them is guess what? All those presenters, they
Hmm.
had books. In the book. So I went to get my doctorate. So I already had my master's. No, I went, got my doctorates because then it says Dr. Smith applying. But then
Right.
I also had my books. I
Extra
decided to write a
credentials.
book. When I wrote the book, then guess what? Everything opened up. When I did the proposal, I'm not only a doctor because I had the book. Now I'm represented as an expert, and my expertise was in alternative education, teaching to kids that are giving up on learning. That's what I do. Okay. And because that became my niche, that's why everything you see the teach, lead, and inspire, because that's what I do. Okay. And
Right.
I did it with the teach. I did it when I was in the Marines. I did it as a teacher. And then I started writing things that were all about teaching. That one was about teaching math. Then I did one on leadership, about my leadership things, combining from Annapolis to the classroom. And
Right.
then I did the book about the teaching. So I did that, did the leadership book. Then AI was coming out. I'm dealing with Amazon. Amazon has selected me as a teacher of the year. And then I started doing AI. And then in teaching computer science, the big problem was the lack of diversity. And that's what Amazon had been working on. And so I wrote a book called Freedom Code Writers, similar to the book Freedom Writers,
Hmm.
but this is Freedom Code Writers. It is a book about how to get minorities into computer science. And so writing became a habit of me. That's why I started. And then eventually I got to the point that I said, I want to do fiction now. I said, let's do something that I wanted to write a book that talked about the alternative education, but
Hmm.
then that was something that everybody can relate to, that a teacher could relate to about a student that they got, that a parent who's afraid to send their kids to the continuation school because she's heard that it's where all the bad kids go to. Okay. And I wanted to have one for a student that realizes that all the trouble and crap that they went through, that they're not the only ones, and that no matter how bad the situation is, you can overturn that and actually turn around. Because remember, I mentioned before, I had 11th graders come to me in our school district. You needed 220 credits to 230 credits to graduate from the traditional high school. When they came to continuation, they only needed 200 credits because they threw out 30 electives. because you really didn't need the electives are just fun things to fill in the gap.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but I would have students come over. So if you're looking at that, so let's say just 200, that means you need 50 credits a year, right? So that means you should have earned 50 credits your freshman year, 50 your sophomore. So at the end of the sophomore, you should have 100 credits. And as a junior coming in the first semester, you should have earned 125 credits and only needing 75. I would have 11th graders come to me that had 0 credits.
How are they in 11th grader then?
They're 11th grade. That's a big thing. So they're 11th grade because what happens? What happens in high school? If you failed all your class in the first semester, guess what? They put you in the second semester, right? And when you come back, you're a sophomore, but even though you have 0 credits, there is no retention. You know what I'm talking about retaining you.
Man, they
Now,
done
like
changed a lot.
like it is, like in elementary school, I'll give you an
They
example. You're right.
changed a
Great
lot.
difference.
Cause like freaking if you got because like when I was in high school, if you didn't get the credits needed to go to that next grade, it yes, we knew we had a total amount that you needed to graduate, but then next to that, you also had a minimum amount of credits that you had to get every year to go to that next grade.
Yeah,
So for you to say that you had juniors with 0 credits is mind-boggling
yeah,
because I remember I had messed up and I had to go to summer school one year because I had messed up and I had to go get those credits because if not, I wasn't going to that next grade.
right. Yeah. See, and the other thing is, see, now you didn't have any state tests when you're in high school.
Who, y'all didn't?
No, I'm talking about like state accountability tests.
Oh,
See, I didn't have it. There was no state tests. I mean, like here in California, every year, every spring, all 11th graders, I'm reading, I'm not just 11th graders, kids, grades, kindergarten, first, I'm sorry, first, second, I think they start third, grades three, four, and five, six, seven, and eight, and then 11. They
so I
take state tests, and that state test is an accountability test. And based on those scores, it influences federal money. Well, all that crap is going to go away now because because the idiots are getting rid of the Department of Education. Okay.
because
But
like I remember having to take like state-sponsored tests and stuff like
yeah,
that, even as a kid, even into high school. I remember having to take those tests.
yeah.
So
So there
that's
were some
wild.
tests that we took that are actually used on a national basis to compare American students to other students in other countries. So those are some tests that have actually been there. But really, but again, going back to the students, so we had 11th graders that come in and had 0 credits. So they have then virtually, I have a student that comes in and now you're talking about they have a year and a half, or if you equate it to weeks, it's 36 weeks in the school.
To get all of these
You get
credits.
18, yeah, 36 weeks for a whole school year, 18 for a half a year. So now they get 54 weeks in order to do all of their 200 credits. And if you do the math, if you got 54 weeks and you need 200 credits, you virtually got to do 3, 4 credits a week. Okay.
Mm.
So, and the other thing is that math is a foundational course. So you need those underlying skills sets in order to get through. So the end result, that's why I wrote those books. I wrote those books to show the stories to act as a point of motivation with kids so that they can see themselves in there. Okay. So that's why they brought up the books called Against the Odds. And it's three books in that series. Um, and it's historical fiction. So the first book starts out from the very beginning where these teachers have decided that they're seeing these kids have fallen through the cracks
Mhm.
and they are dropping out of school and nobody's looking at them, that they decide to come up with this alternative school concept, and then they started it. So it talks about how alternative schools kind of started. Okay. And these teachers and all the crap they had to go through in order to do it. Okay. And so it was set during that time point just before the pandemic. Okay. Then book two talks about actually going through. Well, I actually wrote in there The book is a fictional book, but it talks about the experience of what we went through as teachers when the pandemic hit. How everything was going on just like our normal
Right.
thing, but then all of a sudden I'm in this meeting and the principal's coming in and everybody's cell phones are going off and having this message saying that we got to shut this down. And we were saying, what? You know, so it talks about
Right.
that. Then the third book I wrote was understanding the political turmoil that was going on in America about the Project 2025 and about this fact about the Department of Education may be going away. That was all hearsay, okay?
Right.
But that was in the book when the scenario by the third book wrote, and it came to guess what? The stuff in that
Came
book
through.
is true. Okay. And it's about what teachers were going through. When we were going to conferences, it was a big difference because with all that political stuff, they were like, for instance, Jasmine, the granddaughter,
Hmm.
she was teaching, she was substitute teaching, and she wanted to be a teacher. But then they left out of Ohio when she had the racial harassment, but then they go to Savannah, Georgia. I didn't understand that. But anyway, she go to Georgia. And while she's in there, but see, Georgia is a red state. And so they started talking about what you can and what you cannot say. Okay. And this thing about DEI that they don't want to hear it, it's like a
Hmm.
dead word. But the truth is, diversity, equity, and inclusion has always got to be part of the equation, not connected with race, is connected with um, equality. In other words, all those students that came through my class that have been given up on, okay,
Hmm.
for all the reasons, the baggage and stuff that they had, they're not equal when they enter my classroom. And so I can't treat them as if everybody's wearing a size 7 shoe. I have to be able to solicit and understand a little bit about them. They need to understand me and about my story and how I don't give up on students. And then I have to teach them a different way and not the same way that they did at the traditional high school. I got to give other ways of proving that they know the knowledge.
Yep.
And that's what I did. So the end result was that my techniques and stuff that I had learned and wrote in the books and everything else about teaching was that when I first went to that school, we had 114 graduates at the alternate that was out of the continuation, the home stud the home study program and the adult education. They would do 100 graduates per year. Okay, within 4 years, the summer right before the pandemic hit, that was like 6 years after I had been there, we were up to 378 graduates.
Oh, wow.
We had over 400%, yeah, over 400% increase in graduates. Okay.
That's
Why?
awesome.
Well, one thing was because here's the whole thing. Math was a major roadblock. And if the kids couldn't pass math, they couldn't graduate. And California also had this thing called this California High School Exit Exam. If you wanted to graduate, you had to pass this test.
Hmm.
Math was a big problem. Kids had been taking a math for 6 or 7 times and couldn't pass. So my skill set that I had of being able to turn a kid around and all of a sudden liking math and being a success in math, guess what happened? Graduation rates went right through the roof. So, uh, so writing, I guess in this case, you're right. When you told me about writing a book, that right there, yes, it did. It started something because I would not have written the first book and wasn't on my mind. And
Hmm.
because I wrote that book and wrote the other books about what I had experienced in life, the thing is, those books tell who I am or who I was throughout this whole time point. That's something that hopefully each one of my grandkids are able to read my books because in those books are valuable lessons, especially for those if they want to decide that they want to be a teacher, that's in there, okay, in those books. But now we're on a different thing because see, I did my tour in the Marines and I loved it and everything else about experience, but I only went there because of this mentality that I was taught, and this was the raising out of poverty, and this is what it was. It was raising out of poverty to the middle class was what my mom and my dad them did with that group, and as a result, all of my first cousins and everybody, nobody went to jail, nobody got involved in drugs, everybody went to college, and a lot of them were my aunt Wesley and everything else. What I did not know
Hmm.
was that they all went into education and became teachers and administrators, and I didn't know it. Okay, that same similarity, that what was going on. So we're all with middle class because the military and teaching are professions that places you in the middle class.
Yeah,
Your income is set where it's going to go up. The benefits of the health benefits is it actually shields you, and that's what we were brought and raised up on. But in today's world, with things changing, just like in
yeah.
the politics and stuff, people need to listen. Okay. And if you're someone of color, you better listen. You don't have to be anyone of color. Just if you're poor or whatever, or you're middle class and you just recently went through losing a government job or being laid off, it's time to wake the heck up because you just can't put all your eggs in one basket in something that's called the job. You can't. Okay. For two reasons. One, you need to be shielded because you don't know. Like for instance, right now, what's going on with your with your accident. I mean, crap happens. I mean, I
Yeah.
got sick and everything else.
Yeah.
I lost where I didn't have a regular job.
Well,
Okay, for
speaking
like a
of,
year.
the whole benefits of being middle class and raised up, what I'm
Yeah.
saying, being, ex-military and everything else. If it wasn't for the fact that I was ex-military, I wouldn't be in a financially secure position right now to even have been out of work for as long as I have, because unlike other people, I have the ability to do something what's called an AER if I ever need money. That's something that the general public can't do. But because I'm retired Army, if I get into financial bind, hey, I gotta pay my bills because I'm out of daggone work. I need a no interest loan.
Okay. So what's the AER? Yeah. Okay. That's the first time I heard that. How about explaining what is the AER?
So it is the Army Emergency Relief Fund.
Okay.
And it's
Okay.
something that when I was on active duty, we would give into and we would donate to. And what it
Oh, okay,
is
okay.
anytime you have anything that happens, whether it be, a death in the family, loss of a job,
Right. Okay.
loss of
Now,
income, um, they can do either grants or loans
yeah. Like the
because I'm the
Navy
kind of
relief. Now I'm thinking it's the
exactly.
Navy relief. Okay, I forgot
Same
about
thing,
that.
the
Yeah.
exact same thing. So
Okay.
for me, once I realized how long I was going to be out of work, and then once I had used all of my sick days and what I'm saying, all my PTO days that I had left, I was like, all right, bank account getting a little low, bills is paid, but I don't know how much longer I'm going to be out of work. So I
Right.
reached out to them like, hey, how you guys doing? Yeah, but like I had me a little accident here. I'm gonna be out of work for about a month. These are my bills that I want to make sure that I can still pay X, Y, and Z.
Right.
You know, do I qualify for a loan? What did they say? Yes, you do, Mr. Smith. You always do. Um,
So, so this
and
is
they,
a low interest. It's a loan, but it's a low
yeah,
interest loan.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. That's fine.
In my case, it's a no interest loan,
Okay.
and it just comes out of my retirement check.
Okay. All right. Okay. So, are you getting a VA retirement check? Disability check?
Yeah,
Oh, okay. All right.
yeah,
Cool. All right. Well, that works out great. That's good.
yeah.
That's good to know.
So,
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 if it wasn't
so
for you being a vet, you wouldn't have had that.
that part.
Yeah.
Uh, and
Which
so
means other people would be doing that payday loan crap.
other folks will be trying to have to do payday loans. Other folks will probably be having to sell stuff. You know what I'm saying? And it's one of those things
Oh,
where it's like,
hawk stuff,
yeah,
hawk
nah,
stuff,
nah,
taking
buddy,
stuff to a
nah,
pawn shop. That don't work. I
nah,
know. I've been there.
nah.
I've,
Be
I've been
like,
there.
no.
That was
Be
the
like,
stupidest mistake I've ever did, taking stuff to a damn pawn shop.
exactly.
Yeah.
And legitimately, I am blessed enough that I am in a position to where if I did have to sell things, I do have things that are of monetary value
Yeah.
that I could part with and it wouldn't hurt my feelings because I have a problem with being a collector, as they say, of certain things.
Hmm.
So yeah, I got some high dollar value items that I could part with in a financial crisis. But like I said, the great thing is being who I am, being a veteran, gives me avenues to relief if necessary. Because let's all face it, none of us planned for this to happen.
Right.
Uh, so I was blessed and lucky enough that I still had some sick days, I still had some PTO days, and my job loves me. So it's one of those things where shoot. As a matter of fact, I was at work yesterday for the first time. I went in for a couple of hours, did some training on the computer, and then left for the day.
Hmm.
Uh, and I actually go back to work full time on Monday. So the daggone AER loan allowed me to make sure that I still have that cushion that I had had prior because I had to use my cushion when everything happened. And now I'm mentally in a better place because I don't have to worry about the stressor of making sure that this is taken care of, that's taken care of. Oh my goodness, that bill is due. Oh my goodness, that bill's around the corner. Freaking I did what I had to do, made that decision, quantified it as, yeah, if I hadn't been doing what I was doing, I wouldn't be in this situation to begin with. But here I am. Everything's daggone paid, and that's all that matters. Everything is paid. Freaking, I still got freaking money if I need it, and I daggone definitely got more than enough food to freaking feed me and my family.
So excellent. All right. So I mentioned about the fact about the one. So I just wrote down. So there are three things that I had paid money for to
Hmm.
go into the courses. And I sure wish these guys, well, you know what? One of them does have an affiliate, so that'd be good. So that maybe someone who's listening to the podcast and stuff may be interested in that, and that'll help us because it's the things from our affiliates that we talk about on here, which is going to help fund this so we can keep this
Yeah.
going. Okay. Um, so one was called it's called the was it audiobook? Audio Income Academy. That's what it is.
Audio
Audio
income
Income
academy.
Academy
Okay.
that teaches about uh, doing books, okay, but also doing audio books. Okay, so the very first, when I did the Annapolis Creed, when I did the first book, I did the audio because I did it with my Mac computer, matter of fact.
Hmm.
Um, I just had it with my microphone, just like I got over here. So I had my old microphone. Got these old Shure. You see anybody doing podcasts, they all got
Yeah.
the Shure microphone. It's a good microphone. You got to pay about like $300 for them, but they're good. Um, so that's what it took. So I did my own. Okay. Eventually, when I started doing that, so my first book I did that with the editing and did the own audio. The second book, when I got there, I started find out because the course shows you other resources that I decided, I'm just going to pay. I just paid for it to get it done.
Right.
Um, and because I saw this thing about James Patterson, you've heard of James Patterson, the famous
Yeah.
author and stuff. Okay, he's written I don't know how many books, too many. I don't know. But James Patterson doesn't write his books. Hmm. Yeah. So initially, what he did, he wrote his book, but he also
Okay.
paid for an editor. The same thing. When I went to get my doctorate and my writing my dissertation, which is a book, so that was really, that was my first book I wrote. I'm thinking about now because I had to write a dissertation, and that got published in a little book. Um, but when I got that set up and everything. Now I lost my train. I was trying to think of three things at once and I forgot to write it down because I know we're talking about the audio book. Okay, we'll go back on that then.
Okay.
Uh, oh, inside the book, in inside the book, It talks about James Patterson. Okay. That's what it was at James Patterson. And so when he first started writing, he did. But then if you look at any of his new books as you write, you look at the book and you look at the cover, it's going to say featuring James Paul. And it has his book, James Patterson, all over it, but it says featuring this. And what that is a ghostwriter.
Gotcha.
So what happens is, what he does is that he comes up with the concept of the book and he
Hmm.
writes out the virtually the outline of the book of
And what
what
he
the
wants to happen.
story and everything
Yeah.
else. So in a case if you're doing a fiction, it's a plot outline that goes over. Once you get the plot outline of the book, then it went to a ghost writer and that person writes it. Okay.
Oh, well, shoot, I gotta find
Okay.
me a ghostwriter, so I got a
Okay.
plot already done up.
Yeah. So not only that, so he did that, and then he has somebody that does the proofreading, the editing, and then you have somebody that does the formatting for the book. Then you have somebody after all that's done. Then you have someone that does the cover design because you got to have a snazzy cover. And then once those are all the parts that you need. So you need the ebook cover, you need the hard cover, which is a different format because you got to take into account the paper that goes around the
Hmm.
book and the hardcover and stuff. And you got that, and then you got your manuscript, and that's what you do. So when you go to Amazon, you're uploading, filling out the details about the books, the description, the keywords, and all that on there. And then you upload in the manuscript, and
Hmm.
then you uploading the image for the ebook, and then the image for the paperback, and then the image for the hardcover. And those are all the pieces. So when James Patterson, his first books, he would do the writing and stuff, but then his books got syndicated, and then the publisher had their editor and everything else. So he's
Gotcha.
working with those. Eventually, but then the problem that comes with a cost. So in his case, his books became popular, then he's paying all this money out. Well, once his name was there and people were buying the books because it was James Patterson, he cut them out. And what he did was start his own thing. And his whole process, he comes up with the concept and the idea, he works out with the plot, then once the plot is done, then he goes and he gives it to the writer. Once the writer does their things, then what he does, he gets together with the writer. So you get the writer and stuff done. Uh, and then you get someone does the formatting and the image and everything else.
Hmm.
Okay. So that's what James Patterson, if you looked in his office, he's got all these folders for all these different future books, and that's how he mass manufactures it.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
excuse me.
Okay.
So now, my first book I did, but the first three books, the dating one and the enduring and the Annapolis, I did all the writing and everything else. Carolyn helped me do the editing. She's got some real good eyes as far as editing and stuff on that. And so she edited those two books and stuff. But when I started doing my math books and stuff, I shifted because I saw the thing on James Patterson and I set up the same thing. So I did the original outline and concept. I did the book outline and got that all set. Then I
Hmm.
went to a place and I give that and I put it up for auction. I said, I got this book. I'm looking for a ghostwriter. And they come in with different prices. And I decide what my budget is and what I'm going to
Hmm.
spend. And I go through that process. So that cost me roughly, between $1,500 to $2,000 to do the book from the beginning to the end. So you have two things. One, you can do it on your own, and initially, I think it's still a good thing to kind of to go through it. If you have the finances to pay like the $2,000 or so on a card or so, then you can do that. And for me, I did it because at that point, then I'm up and making six figures with my teaching job. And
Yeah.
again, the whole thing. When you have a job and you're making more money, the damn government wants their damn taxes out of your money. So I don't like to give money to the government. Okay.
Yeah,
So
no one does. I could
no
have swore
one
that's how
does.
our country
Yeah.
got founded, wasn't
But
it?
absolute. But
Could
if
have.
you have a job, that's where you're stuck at with your options. Okay. If only thing you have is a job, that means that anytime that you're producing income on a job, you're going to get taxed. And you got to pay the tax. At the end of the year, you're going to have to do your tax return and everything else. And if you don't have deductions taken out of your paycheck, then you're going to be screwed in the end. Okay? Because then nobody wants to owe the damn IRS money.
Yeah.
Okay? You don't want to do that. And I've been in that situation. I said, oh, heck no. So, but what is the other people from you talking about the middle class, and let's go shift to the upper middle class. The one thing that they do have, and they realize that they got sick and tired of having taxes taken out of their pay, and they realize, well, maybe I better start thinking differently like the wealthy. And part of that, the one thing that they do is that the difference between just like those that could present at the national level, they had a book. Whereas before I had to stay in this level until I decided to step it up to the book, I could never get up there. The same thing as far as having a business. Because now you're going to create a small business of being an author. So when you spend that money that you spend is tax deductible. Okay. And so since the business is not producing money initially, that means that money is on your Schedule C on your tax return, which means it's going to reduce your taxable income.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the one thing I got from my wife Joyce, who worked with a bookkeeping, it was that ever since we had gotten together, married those 16 years, before that, before that time point, I had never had anything on a business. I had things that I had joined network marketing companies like Shackley, my cousin GW. It got me involved in Amway before, and I did those things. But no one ever sat down and told me about the business and the impact on taxes. If they had told me that about why I need to have this, because it's going to lower my taxes, I would have approached it from a different standpoint.
Right. Of course.
Okay. So, um, that's the main thing on that. So that course goes over everything, and that's a good place. So I just got to remember I do have the access logins and stuff for that. I got to get. The other thing I did is that so that was like a $2,000 course, I believe. Then I paid this other course. I only had to pay about $1,000 out of it, but it cost me more. Is this course is from a an Air Force guy. He went to the Air Force Academy, graduated, he was a pilot, did that for his first tour of duty and got out. He started writing fiction books. And along the way, his fiction books and his struggles and everything else, he went through the same thing about Amazon and everything else. Here's the other thing. So when I do put a book on Amazon, let's say a book is $10. Give an example. Let's say the book is $10. It's selling for $10. If it's an ebook, there is no printing cost because it's digital. Okay. So as long as you're selling your book from 99 cents to $9.99, there's no printing costs. And then you're able to get like 70% of what that is. So roughly about like $6. When you go to paperback book, now you get the printing cost of the book. So let's say it's $15 and let's say it costs $3 to print. So now you get $12. And that $12 you share. And then in that case, again, you're giving
Right.
Amazon 30, 40% on that. Okay. And if you do ads to advertise your book on the network,
Comes out of that too.
then that's coming out of that too. Okay. And then sometimes you have to.
Right.
Okay. So unless you have another way of a market, and people are buying books, they go into Amazon. So that's an avenue to put your book out there for initial exposure up and out there. Now, the other thing that drives your sales on your books is actually your reviews. Okay, on how do you get your reviews? Now, I know how to get reviews on my books. So I know how to go through from concept and everything else to get my book published and to be able to get 100 reviews on that book within 90 days. Okay. I have the system set up to do that. So that's the process and stuff that we'll go through. So
All
we're gonna
right.
have to decide up on that with that. So the ammo allows you to be able to understand how not to have your books all being consumed by Amazon, but instead create a system that, but you're going to need more than one book. You're going to
Right.
need about you're going to need about 5 books, okay? And then what you do is that you give away a book for free in exchange for their email address, okay? And then once they get the email address, then you put them on your mailing list, your email system, and now you're going to sell them the bundles of the other books. And it works in theory. If you have a really good fictional series on a
Mhm.
book, then you got a winner. Okay. Once you get that group of people on there working there. So that's the thing I know how to do as
Okay.
well, because I've gone through that course, and that course I give you access to. It costs to do parts of it. It does. So it was $1,000 I paid for the course, but I had to pay for other things. Like for instance,
Right.
I have a Shopify store. So I'm paying $40 a month for that Shopify store to have all my books in. I have a
Okay.
thing that's on for landing pages. I pay $100 or so for. There's another one I pay. So roughly about $500 is what I pay for ongoing monthly fees to have the system set up so that it works automatically. So if I run an ad, and right now, the thing is, did it work? The one thing it did do is this. They always say if you have an online business, that your business or your income is going to be directly related to your list. Okay. In other words, they say, ideally, in theory, that if you have a list of 10,000 people, an email list of 10,000 that's worth roughly $10,000, you can equate $1 for each person
Okay.
per month. So if you have a list of 10,000, that's could generate, in theory, $10,000 a month if you know how to do it right. So that system that I did do that I had that's there, which I'm winding up shutting down, but now since you're thinking about a book, and since I already got the store, then maybe it makes sense is just to keep that operation going. Because all we got
Because
to
I
do is
mean,
create
shoot,
your book.
I might decide to pump out a few
Yeah.
books, you know.
Well, then the other thing part of that is that since that system is set up, then maybe you'll take over the control of doing the marketing and the other parts on that, of doing the marketing for that
Okay.
system. So that's what we do. The other part is another one I have is called Passion AI. Everyone has little cell phones,
Oh
but on the
yeah.
cell phones, they have things called apps.
Yep.
Yeah. So another thing is about uh, like for instance, I was talking about the music, and we're gonna talk about music next week
All right.
because you said you wanted us to be able to do a Christmas song,
Yeah.
and now is the time for us to do that. That we can go ahead and create maybe a Christmas album,
Okay.
okay? And I've actually already recorded some Christmas songs already, but then we'll go ahead and do ones for us that we'll go ahead and set up for doing that and put that on the album. So we'll go through the process of all. So the next week we'll go through the process about doing the audio. Now the same
Okay.
thing again on your books and stuff before. Remember I said I did the audio myself.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But when we're doing this, you're not going to do the audio. You're just going to pick out the person whose voice who you want on it. But we already got people professional that know how to do it, and we'll pay them to go ahead and do the book,
Okay.
okay, the audio book, and then you're just procuring, and this way you understand the whole process of what we go through as far as with the book and stuff. So when they're writing, I just don't let them go and just write. Okay, they're writing as they're writing like the chapter, I'm able to see that chapter and read it, and then I'm able to put comments or give them directions or give them personal anecdotes that
Hmm.
was a real life experience to put those in
Right.
and have those right and write those up
Okay.
on. So, and the other thing is the passion. So the passion was a course that I did pay another $1,500 for. And that course taught about how to create an app. Okay. So like, did I ever show you the one? Now I may have to go through, probably going to go through now. I'm thinking the process of renaming it. But
Okay.
did I tell you about the app on your phone? What kind of phone you got?
iPhone
An
16.
iPhone. Okay. So if you go to the App Store and you go through search and you type in romance in motion. I think. Did I go to the
You
right thing?
said romance in motion.
Yeah.
Romance in motion.
Hmm.
Yeah, I see it.
It looks like sort of like a racetrack.
Hold on.
Oh.
That this daggone thing. Is that it right there?
Or oh yeah, 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 yeah. It looks like with the couples walking.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, what the heck? I'm in the wrong thing. Oh, I think I already have it on my phone. I know I do.
All right, I'm downloading it now.
Yeah. So the concept on that course was the fact that it was about teaching you how to create an app and have it being able to be loaded onto, like in this case, is actually this app is available on iPhone, but it's also available in the Google Store as well.
Okay.
Okay. And you're able to set it up and actually charge for it. Some people are using it to create a course on it. In my case, I put my music on it because I didn't know what to do at the time point, but I went through the process. But the thing is, what I do have an app, and I can change that content on this thing anytime I want.
Okay.
And then when you can set up a thing. So I do have subscribe, but again, this is something that I went through the process to learn how to do, but I haven't marketed. So it's again, it's something else there that's available as a tool to market.
Gotcha.
And this is something we'll go through after we go through the book and get that going, where you're rocking and rolling on that. Then we're also going to work on this. And so this week, when we're doing this week, I didn't post the other episodes 6 and 7 until
Okay.
um, just yesterday, I believe I did. And the reason is because I was busy creating something else. So I've been creating a webinar. So I just put the finishing touches on that. And in that webinar, that webinar is a teaching webinar about how to start a business and build residual income in 90 days. So it's the whole system that I now have developed and packaged together, and
Hmm.
I've done that. Uh, and again, that's going to drive things. So okay, boy, the time goes by. So. So I'm going to get you that information about that course and send it to you so you can start to go through it.
Okay.
Uh, and next week we are going to talk about music production.
Okay.
Okay, we'll talk about the music production because the app and everything else is really part of the music production. But we're going to go through and we're going to pick a song. So right now. The one goal
All
I want
right.
to be able to do with everything here is that I'm going to be toning down things because what I want to do is do what's behind, what you can't see, is I got my keyboard and I've decided that I'm going to start taking my music lessons through this Melodix. No, what is it? I forget what it is. This is the music. In other words, I got some software that hooked up with my iPad that hooks up to my keyboard that
So
teaches
you can teach yourself how to play.
teaches. Yeah, and what I
I
want to
have
do,
seen that before.
yeah,
That's pretty cool. That's pretty
yeah,
cool.
and I want to do that. What I want to do is actually do my own song that I'm going to write. Okay.
Okay.
So, but we're going to go through this. So that's going to be something relaxing and having fun and stuff with. But the other thing is being able to play on certain songs. Like, so you probably heard the Alicia Keys song, "If I Ain't Got You." That's the one
Hmm.
I did a cover on. I actually did it on Facebook and published it. Um, but there are just certain songs I just want to be able to play and just have fun with, you know. So that's where we're at. So next
All
week
right.
we're going to talk about music. And as we rocking and rolling, so we kind of just fell up into this, but I think there's a lot of good information here for folks. So again, so we're scheduling, me and Carolyn are scheduling our Lifeline things. So
Okay.
we're going through our scans. We're going to do that. And then after we do our life scans, I'll come back as part of one of the shows and explain the results of everything that we get because it's something that we're going to do every year. And they have two packages. So they also have a basic screening and stuff, but they
Okay.
also have one that's for men and women. And when the one with men includes the prostate test.
And that's
Okay.
definitely important.
Yeah. Definitely.
Definitely
So it has
important.
the prostate. And for women, I think it's something on osteoporosis. So it's one specifically for men, one for women. And the other beauty part about it is that, again, remember I'm saying I'm always looking for cost. Price is
Yeah.
the first thing you see. Cost is how much you're going to pay over the lifetime. So
Yeah.
normally when I was getting a lot of these things, I'm looking at, and most people, you go for the monthly fee. I look and see what the annual fee is because I'm looking at. So if
Because if you're
if
gonna
I
pay
go,
for it, you're gonna
I'm
pay
going to
for it.
pay for it. I'm going to pay for it. And if I have good credit like I do, then I put it on the credit card and I'm going to pay it off sooner than
Exactly.
that. And I save money. So each one of these things, when I did them and paid up the annual cost to save money. Okay.
Makes
And
sense.
now they're set up to save money because guess what I've done? It's saving you money. This is what we talked about creating generational wealth. If we didn't start to do this show, again, just like you encouraged me to do the first book, you're encouraged about doing this podcast. And the one thing on this podcast is that I'm able to share with you things that I've already gone through that I know how to do. And if it wasn't for this podcast, we would not be having these conversations and you would
Exactly.
not know how to do any of the things that you're about ready to learn.
Exactly. And
And you
that
can
was the
see
whole point.
that's the
That's the
whole point.
so there's an old phrase that I do still believe is true. Doesn't even matter if it's a father, son, it could be an uncle, brother, it could be two cousins or two best friends. Each one teach one. If you have something that you can teach me, hey, I am all for it. I am here for it because that's how future generations do better, get better, be better, stay stronger.
Yeah.
And that is something that we as a people, I believe, have gotten away from. So yeah.
All right. Sounds good. This is episode number 8, and it's in a wrap. All right,
As
son.
always.
I love you. Take care of my grandkids.
All right,
Say
Dad. Love you
hello to
too.
your lovely wife for me.
All right, I will. She's out somewhere making somebody beautiful.
Okay.
You know what I'm
Well,
saying?
yeah, I know. Yeah, she's got her business kind of. She's staying pretty busy then.
Oh, most definitely.
Yeah.
Most definitely. Most
Yeah.
definitely. She had someone that was waiting for a haircut first thing this morning, and then someone else scheduled a perm, and someone else needs some braids done. And then, with school right around the corner about to open back up,
Oh
she
yeah. When does
oh yeah.
school open up now? Up in there in Oregon.
Shoot. I think they got about 2 to 3 weeks left.
2 to 3 weeks. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I
All
want
right.
to say
Sounds good
either
then.
the first or the second week of September. So yeah.
Okay. All right.
All
Sounds
right.
good. Yeah, I've been you saw the pictures on Facebook that I was doing with my backyard.
Oh yeah, it looks
Yeah.
gorgeous. Looks gorgeous.
Oh, it ain't done yet. That first picture I
Freaking
put, that
either
was just the
listen,
that was just
listen,
the bare stuff. Oh,
listen.
I gotta
Misty
see the
Dag
pictures. Matter of fact, I will.
Misty
I'm gonna
Misty
send the
Misty
pictures of
took the
all the
pic.
box I always had a picture of all the damn boxes stacked
Oh
up
my
on the side of
goodness.
my house. Every
Misty
day,
freaking,
Federal
I
Express.
swear, Misty has transformed this freaking yard. It's still in the process. There's still a
Yeah.
lot to be done, but like the one side of my yard is used to be just grass and a tree. It's like a full-blown garden over there now on the one side. She done put down gravel. In the backyard where it was all grass and some old stones, she pulled the stones up. She done put some landscaping fabric down on one side. She's about to gravel out one side, leave the other side grass for the dogs. And the whole other left side of the house, that whole corner over there now, is like a little mini oasis.
Yeah.
So it has like the pool, has like the patio tables and the chairs and everything else. I'm just like, what have I created? I just gave her free reign, told her she could do whatever, and she went for it.
Happy wife, happy life. Okay. All right. Until next week.
All right, Dad.
All
All right.
right.
Let
Take
me
it
let you go.
easy. Love you. All
All right,
right.
later.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in to today's episode of Teach, Lead, and Expire, the Legacy Series, a father-son podcast. If you found value in this conversation, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. You can also follow me on Instagram at Teach, Lead, and Expire, and join our Factory Reset for Men's Health Facebook group to keep the conversation going. Until next time, keep learning, keep leading, and keep inspiring. This is Dr. Smith. Have a wonderful day.
Love bears such a thin disguise. It should come at no surprise. Come, compromise.